Isn't this a cool gecko? Well, he's actually in colored pencil. I won't be talking about colored pencil today, but I will help you draw him, and then you can decide if you want to watercolor him or what pattern you want to put on his back. So, for this lesson, I need you to have a pencil, that's all. Markers are optional, but I'm going to go ahead and use a Sharpie during this lesson too, just to make sure you can see it. We're going to start by putting his head up in this corner so we have enough room for the rest of the gecko. So when you're putting in his nose, it's an angle with a rounded edge. Okay? Make sure that you make it pretty wide. You don't want it to be really, really skinny. Now the front of his face tells you how wide his body's going to be. His head is about the same width as his body. Okay, so if you think about this, this is how wide this body's going to be. Now, when you come back for like the jawbone right here, it doesn't have as much angle. And then we bring it in and we leave room for the neck. Now, something you should be aware of when you draw yours, I'm going to go ahead and trace this right now with Sharpie, making sure you can see it, is you leave an opening there for the neck, okay? The distance between his jawbone and his nose is longer than his jawbone and his neck. So from here to here should be shorter than from here to here. Otherwise, it kind of looks like a diamond shape if you really look at it. Okay, now we're going to come out from this and give him just a little bit of a short neck here. Just a little bit. Okay, try not to make a point in the corners. Now, when you put in his shoulder, you want his shoulder to be wider than his cheeks. So we're going to go out to the edge of his cheek, and we're going to go out to the edge of his cheek, which is really his jawbone, okay? He is a gecko. And then we give him a little tiny bit of a bump for his shoulder, just a really short bump for his shoulder. Make sure that you're past the cheekbone here and past the cheekbone there. Then we'll put the top part of his arm coming in as an angle and as an angle. Now what's important here is that this line here looks similar in length to that one there. And if it doesn't, this is where you want to change it. So this is a little bump for his shoulder, angle down, a little bump for his shoulder, angle down, and then look at him and see if he looks close to being symmetrical. Okay, now I did tell you that his body's the same width of his head. So if you go from his cheekbone and draw a line coming back like this, really, really lightly, you'll know how wide to make his body. So we skip a space to get to his armpit, and we skip a space to make to his armpit. Now we're going to get the elbow a little narrower, so we come into the elbow and into the elbow. Look at this space and make sure they're a little bit similar. I'm going to bring that one down just a little bit so it looks more like the other one. Okay, and then we're going to angle up, angle up. Now, this part of his arm is much narrower, and this is his wrist. So when you come in, you guys, there's a little tiny line right there where the crease is inside the arm, and this is where the wrist is. So you want both arms to look symmetrical. Honestly, that's the hardest part, is making the arms not look like they belong to a different creature. So I'm going to curve around his little elbow there, come into that line, come into that line, and then curve around his little elbow there. So there's his arms. This, I'm just going to erase. That was like a little guideline for me. Now I know how big his body is. We are going to leave his hands and his feet till last. So we're going to stop here and get his body in. Now we want to give him a curve. So rather than going straight back here, we're going to start at his armpit and make a curve in and back out. Now the key here is to make this one look like this one. It just has to be bigger because it has a longer curve. So it's going to go out and back in. And once they look kind of level on your paper, that's about where you want to stop. And then look at the distance between. Notice how I'm getting skinnier here. I'm going to bring that out a little bit because his body is pretty much a cylinder shape. So the distance from here to here, all the way up his body, looks very close. So now I have the two sides of his body in my drawing. And I'm ready to stick his legs in. Now, they both are going to angle up. His knees are just like yours. They angle up. So we're going to curve a little bit here and then go up. And we're going to curve a little bit here and then go up. Now, if your angles are a little different than mine, don't worry about it because he moves his knees and he moves his arms. They don't have to be exactly like mine. But this line should look longer than that one. So if it doesn't, all you do is just extend it just a little bit and then bring in his knee and bring in his knee. Make sure his legs look a little bit longer than his arms. So top and bottom, top and bottom. Then does this leg look a lot like that one? This one's more extended, this one's more bent. So they look a little bit different, but the length looks similar. Okay, now this next line's going to have to get erased right here and right here. So make sure you draw that really lightly in those two areas so that you can erase easily. We're going to go ahead now and just make a curve going down and a curve going down until it starts to get narrower. And we're going to stop there till we get his legs in because that'll help you know where to stick his tail. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Now it's easier actually to erase this right now. So I'm going to just go ahead and erase that. So if you look at his leg here, when I went into the tail, I got narrower. And when I went into the tail, I got narrower. I'm still going to get skinnier here, but I got it started, okay, because the gecko's tail gets long. So up here I've got the thigh, and what I want to do is I want to go from wide to narrower and wide to narrower up to his knee joint. Now when you put in his ankle, you want this ankle to be the same as that ankle. So I'm just going to give myself a little guide dot there, and I'm going to come right into it, okay? And I'm going to give myself a little guide dot there, and I'm going to come into it. Now when you look at their legs, say, does that one look close to that one? Once it does, you're okay to put his feet on. Do his legs look a little bit longer? Now see how I made a little mistake there? I just leave it. Because once you put patterns and everything on it, it's going to be fine. No one will ever notice. Okay, so the first step we're going to do on his hands and legs, I want you to make sure you pause now and make sure you're with me because this is the trickiest part, okay? You're going to start here and you're going to angle out and angle out. And you're going to do that on every single one. Angle out, angle out. Geckos have these wonderful little suction cups on the end of their fingers to help them hold on to walls. Okay, so we want to go ahead and make the second or the first and second toe on each one. So you make sure your lines don't touch each other, okay, just like this. They don't touch. Then when you're done doing this, I want you to look at all the toes and see if they're similar in length. You don't want to have one little short toe and a bunch of long ones. They should all be similar in length. They also don't touch each other. Okay, so if I look at these, do they look similar? I'm thinking these are a little bit chubby. I'm going to bring it out. Those are a little bit longer. I'll make this one a little bit longer. These ones, do they look similar to those ones? Yeah, I'm pretty close. I'm okay. Now all I have to do is put in 2 more toes. So I actually want to put in 4 toes altogether. So I'm going to make a narrow V here, a really skinny V, and a really skinny V. If you look at my fingers, you guys, do you see the V in between? That's where we're going here, okay? So make a skinny V, a skinny V. Make sure it's very skinny, okay? Really skinny V. 4 times. Okay, all you have to do with this lesson is stick in 1 more V. So these are little toes here. So here's 1 toe, and then there's 4 toes. 1 more V will make your toes. Isn't that cool? One more V will make your toes. Once you've got your toes in, all you do is kind of put, kind of like a lollipop at the end of them, your little suction cups. Now, if your toes are closer together or more spread out, it won't really matter as long as you have 3 V's. 1, 2, 3. 3 V's total, because they move those toes around extremely well. So this space could be less here. I just always like to make sure you have enough room to get all the toes in. Once you're done, you should have 4 little suction cups on each foot. Now check out these feet. See how they're closer? Your V's are smaller in this lesson, much smaller. This one, they're wider apart. All of them look great, whatever you do. So what are we going to do with the tail? Well, this is our line. So if it's easier for you to start where you want to end and come into it, that's what I like to do. So I kind of give it a tail, and I come into this line. There I go. That was much easier. Then I start with a point here, and I wind it around, and I know where I want to end, and I know how wide I want it to be. And there's my tail. And I got my tail in. Now, the rest of the designs are kind of up to you. I am going to show this cool lightning bolt kind of shape. So whenever you want to draw something kind of unusual like that, you always start with one line and then mirror it. So I'm going to start with this spiraling around. Make sure you're not close together. I'm going to come into the neck like this, kind of like a spiraling question mark. And then I'm going to start my zigzag down his back, making my zigzag a little bit wide so I can fit the other half of the zigzag in. And how sharp you make or how crazy you make it is kind of up to you. You can see how I did one line. Now you just have to decide how wide you want it, and you just follow the line. And you can see that by following the line, I get this cool zigzag going. And it might look different on yours than it does on mine. My other one looks different too. Every time I do this, it always turns out a little bit different. But I think it's a cool design. I'll show you this one. See how that one is different than that one. This one goes more up, and this one goes more out. Every time I do it, it does it a little bit different. If you're using a pencil, you can always erase it and keep working on it. You can add any patterns that you wanted. All I did on my last one is I just did circles inside circles. I thought they looked kind of cool. Maybe I'll do a little spiral on this one. Maybe no shapes at all. You know, it's just up to you what you do with your designs. You can have fun with it. If you wanted, you could give him a tongue sticking out the front. You could give him a little smile. You could give him a little bump where his eye spaces are. That would work too. You could put some little textures on his knees like you would in many reptiles, which is kind of fun. So I just want you to have fun with it and color it the way you want. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. See you soon.